What? What? Bang!
Whoa! Wrestling podcast. Just when they think they got the answers, I change the question.
Rep screwed rep.
Yeah.
Woo!
Who are you to doubt El Dan? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Did he do it? Unbelievable.
Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. And I am Macho King Savage.
Shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty. I said WWE stands for...
It's me, Austin. I will never retire.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out, subscribe, show your support, enable bells, click notifications, whatever you got to do to get every episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast as they go live. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Listen, app.wrestler.com. I apologize, app.wrestlerunstoppable.com, so you can create a company, create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline PLEs, do whatever you want to do in the world of professional wrestling, all included, totally free, in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now. All Facebook users, as I said, app.wrestlerunstoppable.com. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs like my good buddy John down in Texas. John, love giving you that shout-out. Then you got to pop over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Loyalty rewards available. $15 a month contributor, you get to co-host a show with me. $7.50 a month, I'll put you into a drawing to do the same, just like John and I putting together some Patreon exclusive content. You too could be a part of that content creation with myself. Hello everybody, welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you want me to touch on in a future episode, the only way for me to know that is for you to give me a call. I need to hear from you at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, and I will get to those questions, comments, or whatever the topic is in a future episode. Tonight, starting off with former New Japan Pro Wrestling star Evil, who is, there is no confirmation on a contract being signed, but the word is he is due to arrive in WWE imminently, and he wants to begin his career in NXT. The WWE brass apparently want him going straight to the main roster, but he himself, according to the Super J Cast podcast, he wants to start in NXT as opposed to the main roster, basically being that he wants to be able to adapt to the WWE style before moving up and being showcased in front of a bigger audience. I actually think it's a very selfless and very gracious thing for him to consider. But it is definitely something where the WWE higher-ups are really pushing for him to be a main roster go. And the only thing for me is if you look at the main roster right now, they are flooded. They have a ton of talent, even with all the injuries. And you don't want him to turn into just another guy on the roster. We want him, all new signings, we want to be made to feel special, made to feel like they have a purpose, they have an intent. And I hope the NXT thing is a great way to introduce him to the WWE fan base. If you are a diehard, if you're listening to this show, you probably have seen Evil in his New Japan Pro Wrestling career. He's been doing this Evil character for like a decade now, and it is something he wants to hang on to when he comes to WWE. But we wanted his debut to be successful. We don't want him to get buried under the card and not make the impact that he has the ability to do. It was also rumored that, AEW had no interest in signing him. Something with him and Tony Khan. Tony Khan just not impressed with Evil. So WWE was his best suitor, and he is apparently on his way here. And it'll be great for Kairi Sane, his real-life wife, because they'll be able to hopefully be on the road together a little bit more than they are currently. Word going around the SmackDown tapings yesterday was that Tama Tonga has been fined a significant amount of money for releasing a video on his social media of the rehearsals that were going on last week at SmackDown. It was apparently the report from Andrew Zarian is that it was a significant fine. They have like an unwritten rule about not recording or posting rehearsals. And look, I understand if that's all this was. However, in a time period where we have WWE Unreal, where they get to pick and choose when they turn a camera off and on, and then show all the tricks of the trade to the world, I have a tough time with this guy losing money for him doing essentially the same thing. And unless it's content that they were going to specifically use for an Unreal episode, shut up. You're the ones who let the cat out of the bag. You know, this is a guy who's just simply posting a video of his own, which, by the way, in a weird way, if he was like ready to wrap up his wrestling career, if I were him, I'd sue them for this. Because that's his freedom of expression. That's his right to put things out there, taking his money back. Now, I'm sure there's some clauses in the contract about doing all these things, but it said in that report that it was an unwritten thing. If it's unwritten, then give a justification for taking his cash. At the end of the day, get rid of Unreal or get off the fact that sometimes these people are going to leak things. Now, of course, he put out on social media, he put like a big cringe-looking emoji in response to it, but hopefully he doesn't do that again, because I actually love his character right now. I think he's doing some great work, and perhaps that ties into something we're going to talk about a little bit when we get to the SmackDown conversation. Before we get to that, in AEW, we have an injured star who's been working a backstage role as a producer during the Dynamite and Collision tapings this past week, and that star is Dustin Rhodes, who is backstage at the March 18th episode of Dynamite and the taping for the March 21st, 22nd episodes of Collision, working as a producer. He's always held a coaching position as well as his in-ring position, but with him being out of the ring with the dual knee procedures that he had done, and him getting very close to it, returning to the ring himself, it sounds like he's getting himself into the groove. He got about 2-3 weeks out from when he posted something at the beginning of March that he was getting ready to come back to the ring, but at least in the meantime, he is contributing in a huge way to AEW in the creative role and being a producer, and great for him. He's a young man who I say young man, he's older than I am, but he's somebody who I think really could contribute going down the line for AEW and be a vital piece of their creative process, should Tony Khan be big enough to allow him to really have input and help direct the product, because I think that's something we really could use. Moving into WWE, we got SmackDown. I think the show opening with Drew McIntyre, crashing his car into Jacob Fatu and pummeling him and coming to the ring and shooting his mouth off, and then having like a back and forth with Aldis, which I'm sorry, I really would love to see the McIntyre-Aldis match almost more than anything that they're doing with Drew McIntyre right now. But it did lead to Jacob Fatu coming through the crowd, fighting his way back, and having a whole melee with McIntyre, leading to where he was, escorted out of the ringside area, only for him to rush back and dive off it looked like a chair onto the barricade, through the table, and laying out McIntyre. I love this. It's setting up that match for WrestleMania, one that I think is going to be labeled as one of the premier matches of the show. And let's be honest, right now with so few matches announced for the show, we need everything we can get to make this WrestleMania mean something. After that, we get JC Mateo and Tama Tonga with the rest of the MFTs taking on Damian Priest and R-Truth for the World Tag Team Championship. I don't know. There are people speculating about this. I have a funny feeling if you watch the final sequence where R-Truth catches JC Mateo with a kick, Priest runs over Tama Tonga with a clothesline, and then Truth gets an attitude adjustment on Mateo, and the referee counts to 1, 2, 3. And when you see the look on Damian Priest's face, I actually wonder, and people are questioning online whether or not they told him that they were going to win the tag team championship. I wonder if they told R-Truth. Hopefully they told both of them. This is really great acting and character work. But otherwise, how cool would it have been for them not to have told them? Because Damian Priest really looked shocked with the championship win. Good for him. Cool. Even cooler thing in terms of R-Truth, the first person to hold both of the new versions of the WWE Tag Team Championship, having the World Tag Team Championship with Miz, and now the SmackDown or WWE Tag Team Championship with Damian Priest. Very cool stuff. After that, we saw an interaction with Candice LeRae, giving Danhausen $20 to fix Johnny Gargano. We had a break where we saw Sami Zayn in the back with Kathy Kelly, having a segment with Trick Williams. I didn't necessarily love the Trick Williams talking trash on Jacob Fatu. I thought that was kind of pointless right now with everything Fatu is doing. And that led into a tag team match between Nathan Frazier and Fraxium, better known as Fraxium, versus the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. And at the end of the match, the interesting thing here was Candice LeRae coming out and actually assisting the Machine Guns in picking up the win, which Alex Shelley looked to be frustrated with, but Chris Sabin, they played it in a way that made it look like he didn't see it happen. And I think he's going to be, in terms of character development, he's going to be happier with the win than worrying about how it happened. And I don't disagree with that. I think the Guns could actually do very well as a heel tag team. I don't want to see them split up. Let me be very clear about that. I think that would be a terrible idea. After that, we saw Randy Orton come out, and he did his speech. And I actually didn't have much trouble with anything he said in the speech. I didn't think he needed to, like, speak the lyrics to his song or anything like that. But it is what it is. I thought that it was an okay promo. It wasn't his best work, but certainly served the purpose it was meant for. When they got back from the break, they were backstage. You see Orton getting into a verbal confrontation with Matt Cardona, and Orton shoved Cardona. So you know there was some tension brewing there. Aleister Black and Zelina make their way to the ring. Very cool entrance. They're going to have a match with Sami Zayn, and of course we're also going to have the opportunity to see Trick Williams get involved. When he spits his drink on Sami Zayn, for me that's like always been a trigger for me. That would be incensed with that. But he spits the drink, and there's a whole stare down situation. With the distraction and things going on outside the ring, an attempt at a 10 count and things like that. When Zayn goes after Trick Williams and then slides back into the ring at the last second, it was what Aleister Black needed to land Black Mass and pin Sami Zayn. I love that Aleister Black is getting some wins. I don't like that they all seem to be coming through like shady means. I don't think Aleister Black needs that. I did love that we got Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley meeting in the ring once again. I don't know that I needed to see the heel turn by Michin and B-Fab. I think that's kind of overkill heading into this. I mean, if you were going to bring somebody to be in the corner or to be backup for Rhea Ripley, it might be one thing. But if you're going to do that, you better do it soon so you can get a 6-man tag team match before we get to WrestleMania. It appears as though Michin and B-Fab have now joined Cargill in some sort of faction. Not really thrilled with that angle. I don't see how that benefits the storyline between her and Rhea Ripley at all. We go to the back, and we got Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga arguing, and JC Mateo over the loss of the tag titles. We see Tama Tonga tell Solo that it's starting to sound like he's Roman Reigns. And before everything gets too heated, Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre come crashing through, still brawling with each other, which I think is absolutely ludicrous that they be fighting this long. But again, security prying them apart, keeping the excitement going, which leads into the Carmelo Hayes Ilya Dragunov match for the United States Championship, the Open Challenge continuing. And look, this was a great match. Lots of back and forth, tons of high spots leading to, at the end of the match, Carmelo Hayes, there's a torpedo Masaku to Hayes, and inevitably we get a sunset flip to Dragunov and a pin for Carmelo Hayes and a retention. Great stuff. We see backstage Randy Orton Jelly Roll makeup, after the events that transpired last week. In the ring, we get Jelly Roll and Kit Wilson coming face to face once again, which is going to obviously be something that leads into WrestleMania. More importantly, it does get physical, leading to an elbow drop from Wilson onto Jelly Roll, which is obviously going to set something up for Mania. After that, we get the Tag Team Championship match, the Bellas versus the Irresistible Forces. And I didn't expect there to be a title change here. I understand we get Alexa, we get Charlotte out there. We have other things going on that really need to be in place to have a multi-team match at Mania. That way everybody gets a chance to be on the card. And that's exactly what happens. We get interference and we go to a double disqualification due to outside interference. We had Nikki Bella's in Flair's face for interfering. Alexa Bliss gets in Nikki's face, but Brie fires off strikes on Charlotte. Nikki sends her crashing into the corner. It's a melee. And obviously, they're probably going to have another tag team match next week with the Charlotte and Alexa versus the Bellas. Maybe they'll do another one with the Irresistible Forces versus Charlotte and Alexa's. And then we'll head to WrestleMania. We'll see all three of them. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. But I think obviously it's clear what they're doing with that. Randy Orton gets in the ring, calls out Matt Cardona for an apology. And this, look, without going into the details, this does not turn into an apology. It gets very physical. Another attack by Randy Orton on another star, just like he did on Cody last week, eventually resulting in him putting Cardona's arm in a folding chair and stomping on it. horrible selling through this. I actually didn't like the selling in this in terms of Randy Orton acting like he wasn't going to do it when he knew darn well he was going to. I'd rather it was like the previous week where he just did things he was going to do, not this like hesitation stuff. If you're going to do it and get it done. And then you're outside the arena. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu on top of a platform. Nick Aldis and the WWE officials are trying to get them, but they're blocked by a fence. McIntyre and Fatu, then they both go crashing off the platform as the show goes off the air. And we had just a non-stop, action-packed SmackDown top to bottom. And I thought a lot of it did a great job of keeping the process going as we're on the road to WrestleMania. And clearly there were places where they could have improved, but I thought overall, very solid show. So that is what we got for tonight. Now we have one last thing I got to talk about because it's a crazy week this week with the people we've lost, but the former inaugural member of the Midnight Express, Loverboy Dennis Condrey, originally tag teaming with Randy Rhodes, and eventually he would have moved into his most popular version of the Midnight Express with beautiful Bobby Eaton. Eaton would then, after Condrey left the team, would team with Stan Lane. Condrey would go and reunite with Randy Rhodes, and then end up having a feud with Eaton and Stan Lane's version of the Midnight Express. Both, no matter what version of the Midnight Express there is, always feuding with the Rock and Roll Express. Some of the greatest tag team matches in the history of professional wrestling. And just such a great contributor to in-ring wrestling, tag team stylization, certainly during the late 70s, early 80s. And the Midnight Express just means so much to the world of professional wrestling. And I feel terrible because I was recording an episode yesterday, and I made reference to the loss of Chuck Norris and some of the other people who we've lost recently. And I happened to have mentioned Hall of Fame conversation. And in that, I mentioned the Midnight Express. And I am really frustrated that both Beautiful Bobby and Loverboy Dennis have both passed away prior to being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think WWE has dropped the ball on that big time. Stan Lane even spent some time in WWE as an announcer. Jim Cornette as well, their longtime manager who was in the creative team and a manager on screen. And I just think it was time to really get that done. I would have loved for him to know that before he passed. I really think WWE missed the ball on that. But heartfelt well wishes to his family, our condolences, and rest in peace, Loverboy Dennis. Just an underappreciated contributor to the pro wrestling industry and to tag team wrestling as a whole. Just an absolute legend. I saw Ricky Morton posting online about it's like losing a brother. It must be, for all the time they spent in the ring together, trading the NWA World Tag Team Championship and things like that. Just poetry in motion every time they got in the ring, even at the reunion shows and such throughout the years and conventions where he would come back and wrestle sporadically until like 2011. Just great stuff all around. So great guy, made an appearance for AEW a couple years back to further a storyline with FTR, and they were actually, Dax Harwood's the one who actually broke the story online, and it's I'm sure emotional for him because they pattern a lot of what they do on the Midnight Express. So again, rest in peace to Loverboy Dennis. Condolences to the family, and just sad news out of the Midnight Express conversation. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode when we run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always to Suno for creating the music and sound effects we use in our show. Today's show is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with Sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com and picking up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college or university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro-Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro-Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking some time with us tonight. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.